Hey, Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Hey, Shalom. Hey, uh, just real quick before I start, I just seen I had uploaded two videos, and I had the mic muted the whole time, and man, I didn't catch it. So, hey, Lord willing, I'll redo those and re-upload them because they're important to do, just so they'll be back up, but just I forgot, I didn't realize I even had it muted, so Salakia. But this lesson is going into the coming food shortages leading to famine, leading to the the hour of temptation, leading to terrible times where you're gonna, if you don't have this Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai with you, and you're gonna do terrible things. You're gonna, whether it be cannibalism, whatever, and ultimately, you're gonna take that chip. You know, and sweet. I'll just get right into it. So I typed in here Google Argentina donkey meat. And, you don't need to be real specific, but it just pops up. It knows what you're talking about. So here, donkey meat in Argentina has recently emerged as a significant topic due to its introduction as a cheaper alternative to traditional beef amidst a severe economic crisis. Now, if you know who's the president of Argentina, you know that he's a hatter, I'd say. So that them being in charge, it should be lawful things going out, but it's not. Another thing that shows that the wicked are in authority and the people are mourning. So the current domestic consumption, while beef has long been a staple of Argentine identity, its price has skyrocketed to approximately 25,000 pesos per kilogram. So let's look at that. How much is 25,000 pesos? That sounds like a lot. Hey, 144. Let's say that real quick. But it's not funny, but hey, that's what it is. 25,000 pesos equals 1,445.25. So that's how much it costs. Shoot, how much beef is that per kilogram? Per kilogram. How much is that? I mean, that's a 1,000 grams. Oh, that's terrible. So if it's, wow. So imagine, okay, this is coming to America. This is coming to Babylon. That's a it's $1,000, almost $1,500 for 2 pounds of meat. Man, that is, come to Babylon, please. Which, anyway, back here it says availability. For the first time, donkey meat is being sold domestically, starting with a pilot program in the Chubut province of Patagonia, and that's like the southern region of Argentina. So it's priced roughly at 7,000. Why did you say? Okay, it's priced roughly at 7,500 pesos per kilogram, nearly one third the cost of beef. Oh, okay, so this is the Slovakia, just getting off work, whatever. But so 75,000 pesos. I mean, that's still expensive. So if you want, if you want the alternative donkey meat, it's gonna be $400 instead. So this is crazy. So expect these prices to come in Babylon the Great. Is here in Argentina. They're experiencing that, but expect this to spread with global supply shortages, with the Strait of Hormuz, with traffic being interrupted. Expect these things to happen. Expect prices to surge to hyperinflation rates. This is hyperinflation right here. What they're going through. So demand. So price roughly at 7,500 pesos per kilogram, nearly 1/3 of the cost of beef, making it a protein lifeline for struggling households. Demand reports indicate that initial supplies in cities like Trelew sold out within a single day, despite cultural resistance and mixed public reactions. So it was like, man, I ain't trying to eat that, but shoot, I gotta. The industry and exports. Argentina is traditionally a major player in global donkey meat market. What? Argentina is traditionally a major player in the global donkey meat market, though it has historically focused on international trade rather than domestic use. So they would sell it to other people. Okay. Who's eating donkey meat besides them? Oh, okay. Top buyers, key importers are Belgium, Russia, Japan, and the Netherlands. Bunch of goddamn heathens. Anyway, I ain't worried about none of that. That's just the rest of it, But this is what they're doing. This is what's going on. So I asked here Google. I said, "Are donkeys clean according to Leviticus?" According to Leviticus 11, donkeys are considered unclean because they do not have a divided cloven hoof and do not chew the cud. They were classified as forbidden for food and unsuitable for sacrifice. Because they were unclean, Mosaic law required that firstborn donkeys be redeemed with a lamb or have their necks broken. So here I'm going to get this here when it goes into the diet, which this is Leviticus 11, but it says the same thing in um, Deuteronomy. So this is Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 1 in the NLT. It says ceremonially clean and unclean animals. Then Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said to Moses and Aaron, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel." So this is the law that's given to Israelites. Now, there's a lot of Israelites, and we're scattered all over the world. So we're going to be to the four corners, whether it be in the very tip of South America and Argentina, all the way up into Canada, Greenland, wherever. We're all across the world, Japan, wherever. We're all around the world. The law applies to you. You are an Israelite. It don't matter who you scattered amongst. If you are an Israelite, if you go back to the 12 tribes, that spray that came out of the loins of Jacob, you are an Israelite. So of all the land animals, these are the ones you may use for food. You may eat any animal that has completely split hooves and chews the cud. You may not, however, eat the following animals that have split hooves or that chew the cud, but not both. The camel chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is unclean. The hare chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is unclean. The pig has evenly split hooves, but does not chew the cud, so it is unclean. You may not eat of the meat of these animals, or even touch their carcass. They are ceremonially unclean for you. So while it ain't specifically named a donkey, but it gives you the criteria. Does it have a split hoof, and does it chew the cud? So let's see here. The following creatures will make you, verse 24, the following creatures will make you ceremonially unclean. If any of you touch their carcasses, you will be defiled until evening. If you pick up their carcasses, you must wash your clothes, and you will remain defiled until evening. Any animal that has split hooves that are not divided, that are not evenly divided, or that does not chew the cud is unclean for you. If you touch the carcass of the animal, you will be defiled. Of the animals that walk on all fours, those that have paws are clean or unclean, Salakia. If you touch the carcass of such an animal, you will be defiled until evening. If you pick up its carcass, you must wash your clothes, and you will remain defiled until evening. These animals are unclean for you. So these are, it's a serious thing. These things will make you unclean. You touching an unclean animal, you touching their carcass, you eating the meat, it makes you unclean. Uh, let's see here. Let me see if it says it. I like this right here. This is Deuteronomy 14 in the NLT, and this is at the top, and I'm going to jump down because I like this right here. This verse 1 that popped out that I saw. It says, since you are the people of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, this is the Israelites, your power. Since you are the people of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, your power, never cut yourselves or shave the hair above your foreheads in mourning for the dead. So no tattoos, no cutting yourself, all that kind of stuff, self mutilation, whatever, and no edge ups. That's what it's saying. Cutting it when you get in a lineup and stuff like that. That's what it's talking about. Pushing the hair up. It says cutting the hair above your foreheads. So you have been set apart as holy to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which set apart means holy. You're separate. You have been set apart as holy to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, your power, and he has chosen you from all the nations of the earth to be his own special treasure. So you must not eat any detestable animals that are ceremonially unclean, which I went into in the previous chapter. I touched on mostly the mammals. I didn't look at the rest of them, the fish, and the birds and whatnot, but because we're focusing on pretty much donkeys. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the addax, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. So those are pretty much going off of that, animals that look similar to that have the same characteristics. It says chew the cud, split hoofs. You may eat any animal that has completely split hoofs and chews the cud, but if the animal doesn't have both, it may not be eaten. So you may not eat the camel, the hare, or the hyrax. So again, it gives you the criteria. It tells you, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai gives you the criteria and tells you what to do, what to look for. So a donkey is unclean. So they're feeding people unclean meat. But the reason why this stood out to me was because it's in the scriptures. It was in the scriptures in a specific time like this. So here, the next tab, where am I? Right here. I put in here, what happened to Argentina's livestock? Argentina's livestock sector has faced a significant decline because they have a lot of cattle, losing 4 million cattle over the past 2 decades, with beef supply dropping to its lowest level in 15 years as of March 2026. A combination of severe droughts, for the last, was that 2022 to 24, floods, high costs, and land conservation for soybean farming has fueled this decline, alongside high rates of female slaughter affecting future herd sustainability. So they but this is all part of what they call it. They want you to eat eat the bugs. They don't want you eating meat because cows put out too much carbon. The Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, he ain't make earth right. So, Esau Edom with all of his plans, anyway, he can do it better. So they killing off all the females, all that kind of stuff. So key factors affecting Argentine livestock: shrinking herds and drought. Persistent drought conditions forced farmers into early slaughtering, shrinking the herd to 52.37 million in 2025. So Industry shift, high soybean prices and expansion have replaced traditional grazing pastures. So instead of them having grazing pastures, the places where the cattle can roam and eat, they replaced all that with soybeans. Man, anybody trying to eat no fucking soybeans, which they probably don't even use the soybeans for food. They're probably using that for something else. But let me see, because I'm curious what are you using soybeans. So soybeans are primarily used for high protein animal feed, human food products, and renewable foods like fuels like biodiesel. So that's kind of funny. They're killing off the animals to feed the animals. Anyway, this nigga retarded. The Most High, he works on the minds of men. Like he got them making these decisions, and like the decisions they making are so stupid, and they're bringing their own destruction on them. So production and consumption decline. Beef production has dropped to 3 point. Anyway, beef production has dropped with consumption falling. So high inflation and economic policies linked to Javier Milei administration, often linked to the Javier Milei administration, having led to high domestic prices and reduced unsustainable livestock numbers. So, like I said, the Most High puts it in the minds of these men. They made it. I remember they were propping this guy up a few years ago, like he's gonna be the savior of Argentina, and he immediately went to go kiss the wall. Anyway, fucking wall humpers. Export and trade issues. While Argentina is increasing exports to the U.S., so they also made a deal last year to send beef to the U.S. But you know, let me see about that. Let me see, where am I? Why did Argentina sell their livestock? Anyway, why did Argentina sell their livestock to the U.S. if they are struggling? If Argentina is selling livestock to the U.S. as part of a strategic high value trade agreement designed to alleviate its severe economic crisis, which is not. It's not. If it's being alleviated, why are they eating donkeys? If they're being helped, why they gotta resort to eating donkeys? It's not helping them. With the U.S. providing a 40 billion aid package, and that 40 billion aid package upset, I would say, the majority of the farmers here in Babylon the Great, because he bought their stuff, and the farmers here. Let me see. Why are U.S. farmers upset with the U.S. I mean, why are U.S. farmers upset with the Argentina trade deal? So, U.S. farmers and ranchers are upset with the Argentina trade deal, specifically a 2025 executive order expanding tariff free beef imports, because they believe it undercuts domestic producers, lowers cattle prices, and compromises disease safety. The deal, meant to curb high U.S. beef prices, is seen as market manipulation that hurts ranchers while benefiting importers. So the key reasons for opposition: undercutting domestic producers. Ranchers argue that importing 80,000 metric tons of primarily Argentine beef drives down prices for American producers who are already dealing with small herds and high production costs. It says market volatility and betrayal. The deal has sparked a limit down days in cattle futures, causing direct financial losses, with many producers feeling betrayed by the America First agenda. So yeah, they were on the America First thing. They were talking about, yeah, we're gonna put America first, all this stuff, and then here it is. What's going on? Why you giving a deal to Argentina? Why are you giving them 40 billion? The soybean disease risk, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and other groups have expressed deep concerns regarding Argentina's history of foot and mouth disease. Ooh, that's something I didn't know about that. Fearing a potential outbreak could destroy U.S. herd. So, foot and mouth disease. Let me see what that is. And so, like, this is a lesson. Every lesson you don't know where. I just wanted to see what foot and mouth disease was. Let's see. Every lesson, like, you don't know really where it's gonna go, where the spirit's gonna lead you. So, foot and mouth disease is a common, highly contagious viral illness in children. No, 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 no. So, foot and mouth disease (FMD) is a highly contagious, reportable viral disease affecting cloven-hoofed livestock, including cattle. It causes severe blisters, vesicles on the mouth, tongue, teats, and hooves, resulting in fever, extreme lameness, and rapid weight loss. While rarely fatal in adult cattle, it causes severe production losses and is a major barrier to an international trade with no direct cure other than stamping out policies and vaccination. So blisters, ulcers, severe lameness. Man, hey, y'all Bashim Yahweh Shai is plaguing these people. So yeah, that's terrible. So the soybean is beautiful. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is known by his judgments. So separate from soybean conflict, separate from the beef deal, the U.S. soybean farmers were angered by financial bailouts for Argentina, which they argue allowed Argentina to take market share from American farmers in China. So even here, they got soybean farmers, but guess what? Ain't nobody. Let me see here. Man, another one. Hold on. Who bought U.S. soybeans in the Big 25? So in 2025, China was a primary buyer of U.S. soybeans, purchasing at least 8 to 10 million metric tons by the end of the year, driven by trade agreements with the U.S. that followed months of reduced purchases. So they weren't really buying any U.S. soybeans. These mainly state-owned buyers like Kofco booked shipments for delivery between 2025 and March 26. So let me see here. Let me try another one. How much did soybean farmers lose in 2025? So, U.S. soybean farmers face severe financial losses in 2025, with estimates suggesting that a total market loss of approximately 10 billion. So they lost 10 billion. Argentina gained 40 million. Such and such, and that's with the livestock cattle. I can also put in there how much did the cattle farmers, but for time's sake, so driven by rising input costs, reduced exports, and trade disputes, farmers lost nearly $75 to $89 per acre, with some projections average loss reaching 109 per acre. So they're just losing. So let me see how much. Let me see if they got a number here. Um, Well, how much? It don't say how much they bought it for. Let me see. Well, that's good enough. They lost 10 billion, so that's fine. Losing. So anyway, back to this. Why did Argentina? So they struggling. They're getting bailed out. They're struggling. They're still struggling. So just back to the scriptures. So this is second Esdras because they're in a bad time. They're eating donkey meat. But this is these things are affecting the world the world. So this is Second Kings chapter 6 and verse 24. And it came to pass after this that Ben Hadad, king of Syria, gathered together all his hosts and went up and besieged Samaria. Now Samaria was the northern kingdom, which they went into captivity, and after their captivity, they came here to the Americas, and so they're scattered here in the Americas, which is why we say, you when we talk about you northern tribes, you Latinos and Native Americans. So here, I'm just going to look up this word for besieged. This is H6696 Tazawar. And it says to cramp, confine. It says adversary, assault, beset, besiege. It says to bind, besiege, confine, cramp, confine, to shut in, to shut up, to show hostility to be an adversary, to treat as a foe. So you're being shut in. So Samaria was shut in. They were blocked off. And so they were pretty much couldn't go in, couldn't go out. That's the siege. Matter of fact, here I got siege etymology. It says siege originates from the. Let me just get it in the here. Etym online. This is siege, a seat, chair, stool, the ceremonial seat of a king. Since is now obsolete. So, in the military sense, the stationing of an attacking force before or around a fortified place, the act or process of besieging a city. So the notion is of an army sitting down before a place. In the oldest sense preserved in archaic siege perilous, the vacant seat. Okay, that's fine. But here they're sitting down. They're basically, blocking your path. And so here I also put just showing like parallels. Says I put in here to Google. It says is the U.S.'s actions in Hormuz considered a siege? It says yes, based on reports from April 2026. The actions taken by the United States in the Strait of Hormuz are being described as a naval blockade or a silent siege. This strategy is designed to pressure Iran by cutting off its economic lifeline, specifically by stopping ships and oil tankers that are entering or leaving Iranian ports. Now, the point, kind of all over the place, but this here isn't just affecting Iran. This is affecting the world. You having other countries talking about going into the C-19 lockdowns, things like this. This is affecting the entire global trade. So this says the naval blockade enforcement. The U.S. military is actively boarding, searching, and in some cases seizing Iranian-linked cargo ships with trying to pass through the strait. Layered enforcement approach. Instead of stopping every ship directly in the narrow strait, U.S. forces have adopted a strategy of allowing ships to pass through the strait before intercepting them, particularly in the Gulf of Oman. So, anyway, this is pretty much what's going on as a siege, and this siege drives up prices. And while this affects globally what's happening in Argentina is they're being plagued by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They're going through droughts, famines, all this kind of things. But what's happening in Argentina is going to happen worldwide. So Second Kings 6 and 25, and there was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver. So, matter of fact, let me see here. Let me get this in the NLT so we can uh let's see here. This is 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 25, and the NLT. Oops. Says, as a result, there was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 pieces of silver, and a cup of dove's dung sold for 5 pieces of silver. Let me see what it says in the AMP. Oops. Maybe I'm looking for something that'll, like it'll translate it. Okay. That don't help. In other words, they're going through inflation. So we'll just leave it at that for now. It says, as a result, there was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 pieces of silver, and a cup of dove's dung sold for 5 pieces of silver. So both of these things, the donkey's head, you wouldn't even consider eating that, normally. But in this time, things are so bad that even that's selling. The same way that how I mentioned earlier that people were resistant to eating donkey and whatnot. Now that the famine is so bad, they giving into it. And the same thing with the dove's dung. They eating bird shit. So, and this is what's coming to the world. Get this. Let me see here. This is Revelation. I'm going to go to Revelation 6. And let's get this in the NLT. I'm going to jump down. This is Revelation chapter 6 and verse 5, and this is NLT. And when the Lamb broke the third seal, I heard the third living being say, come. I looked up and saw a black horse, and its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. So this is judgment. And I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay. So consider how much that is. Your day's pay. Like say you make $20 an hour, something like that, whatever. And you work, probably like a 10-hour shift. So that's what, 200? No, you ain't even got to do that because we went earlier. Hey, $200. That's how much it's gonna cost you for a loaf of bread, right? And then the same thing with the barley. But consider what I was saying earlier. Going back to the first. Let me see. Right here, it says it was 25,000 pesos to buy. That's how much the cows were worth. So that's just out of. You ain't even gonna make that. That's way past a day's wait because that's $1,445. That's a day. Shoot, that's a whole check. That's more than my check. So that's per pound. That's 2 pounds cost you that much. So then, that a $433, that might not sound so bad. That's only what, a couple of days pay? Depending on how much you make. If you make $20 an hour, you work 10 hours, what's that about? $200? Maybe if that. Yeah, that's $200. So you gotta you gotta save up for 2-3 days just to get you a little, some little 2 pounds of meat. Yeah. But that's the whole hyperinflation. This is what this is describing. So, and this is caused by that red horse Esau Edom, who's causing all these problems. That's who's in charge of Argentina, the Edomite. They taking peace from the earth, taking peace from wherever they go. Not only do they have them droughts and whatnot, they have them Edomites over there starting wildfires. To get the. But anyway, when the lamb, verse 5, when the again, it's like Revelation chapter 6 and verse 5 in the NLT, when the lamb broke the third seal, I heard the third living being say, "Come." I looked up and saw a black horse, and its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice from among the four living beings say, "A loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay. And don't waste the olive oil and the wine." And this olive oil and wine represents this wisdom, this truth. The 100% truth that starting with the apostles, great millstone, are giving you. And this is from Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. So that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding will be fine. Those that have it will be good. So that's also this is Isaiah 33 and 6, and then I'll get it in KJV. It says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is his treasure." So those that have this wisdom, this knowledge, what you got is going to remain intact. You're going to be taken care of because you fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. So back to this. I'm not gonna go back to the Second Kings because, well, you know what? I'm gonna hit it. So this is back to Second Kings, chapter 6 and verse 25. "And there was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. And he said, If Yahweh do not help thee, whence shall I help thee? Out of the barn floor or out of the winepress?" And he's being, how can I, if the Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai don't help you, how can I help you? In other words, what can I can't do nothing for you. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son, and did eat him. And I said unto her on the next day, Give thy son, that we may eat him. And she have hid her son. So this is what's coming. The donkey meat, all that stuff. That's if you can afford it. Y'all are going to resort to cannibalism. This is judgment Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is bringing out on you. And he's going to bring your worst fears on you. The things that you feared the most. You're going to have to eat your own flesh and blood. And you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to hey, you're gonna have to live with that until Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai cuts you off, until he destroys you. And just that in itself will probably destroy you. Fear not them that can destroy the flesh, but fear him that can leave your body in hell. Leave you in these miserable conditions. So, and that's pretty much it for that account. Like you can keep going, but it continues. This is a beautiful account. This is one of my favorites. But continuing on, I already read for Siege. I put in here world food shortages. So here in 2026, a severe global food crisis persists, with approximately 363 million people at risk of acute hunger, and it's going to grow. It's going to grow up to the billions. Keep in mind that the Georgia Guidestones, They wanted to get the population down to 500 million. This is not the numbers that the elites want. They want it down further. So expect this to get worse. So driven by conflict, economic shocks, and climate extremes, famine conditions are confirmed in parts of Sudan and Gaza, which that's all. There's a genocide going on in Gaza. Sudan, there's constant. That's a conflict zone. While significant shortages affect countries like Yemen, Haiti, and South Sudan, and these are all like high, unstable places. So I'm just gonna go to the next tab. I put food shortage U.S. As of April 2026, there is no widespread nationwide food shortages at retail grocery stores in the United States. So that's right now. Just because you don't see it at the stores yet, that don't mean it ain't hidden. That don't mean the famine ain't growing. Last year, a farmers' crops failed. Majority of them. Majority of the farmers, their crops, they're not even making food for U.S. citizens. They're making it for foreign countries. So, however, recent reports highlight specific areas of concern regarding localized supply disruptions and broader food insecurity affecting millions of households. It says current supply chain availability, military shipments. There have been recent reports of food shortages aboard U.S. Navy warships in the Middle East. Yeah, I've seen those. Specifically in the USS Abraham Lincoln, and USS Tripoli, though the Navy has officially denied these reports, stating they have sufficient supplies. So of course, the government is going to say, "No, everything's good." Which retail availability, while general food availability remains stable. So if everything's stable, why is there shrinkflation? Matter of fact, let's look that up. Lord willing, Lord willing, this is edifying. So shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is the practice of reducing a product's size, weight, or quantity while keeping the retail price the same. So they're giving you less and they're keeping the price the same. Terrible. Essentially acting as hidden inflation. Manufacturers use this tactic to maintain profit margins amid rising labor, energy, and raw material costs without raising prices, which they do raise the prices too. It often leads to consumer frustration, loss of brand trust, and higher unit costs, particularly in packaged goods like snacks, dairy, and household items. So while they say, "Oh, ain't nothing going on, there's no food shortages, this, that, whatever," you got this going on. This is going on behind the scenes, and it's leading up to worse things. So where was I? I hate that it just opens up a tab at the end instead of just opening up the tab next to the tab. Right here. So again, it says retail availability. While general food availability remains stable for most consumers, certain items like grains, oils, and meat have faced price volatility and periodic local thinning of shelf stock due to rising fuel and fertilizer costs. So all these things are affecting it, but they're making it like, "Oh, ain't nothing really happening. It's not too bad. It'll get better. This or that, whatever." They're lying to you. But the scriptures don't lie to you. The scriptures are telling you the truth. This is what's coming. While it looks like they're trying to keep up this facade and everything like that, famines are growing. Evils are growing. Destruction is coming. All this is going to lead up to the MOTB, where you people that are not ready, that are not built up, that don't have the oil, you're going to hold your hand out and get branded. So regional variation, supply consistency often varies by state, with some regions in the south and rural areas seeing more frequent local disruptions. So food insecurity versus physical shortage. A shortage in the U.S. is often more about affordability than absence of food on shelves. National statistics, roughly, okay, that's fine. They don't cut SNAP, all that stuff. Leading causes of Most states affected, Arkansas, Texas, and Mississippi, consistently report some of the highest rates of food insecurity. Con. Leading causes of ongoing pressure, climate shocks, destructive weather patterns have impacted crop yields for staples like wheat and corn. Global conflicts, ongoing international tensions have disrupted the export of fertilizers and fuels, which are critical for domestic food production. So, what's going on? The conflict in the Hormuz, that's um, interfering here to where farmers are going to get their fertilizers, all this kind of stuff. So, guess what? If the farmers can't get their stuff, their crops are going to fail. Their crops have already been failing because of climate, all kinds of factors. But all this is leading to the hyperinflation. All this is going to be leading to food shortages. All this is going to be leading into you niggas eating your own children. All this is going to lead to you niggas eating your own children and taking the chip, and so on and so forth. Doing it. So labor and packaging, local shortages can still occur due to labor gaps in transportation and packaging material scarcities. So all this stuff, like I see this in automotive. There's shortages of filters, shortages of wipers, shortages of oil. You see a lot of shortages. Supply chain issues coming up to where when you start to think about it, it's like, dang, how long is this gonna last before it, like, where's the you see the like the leaks in the wall, like how long until this, the dam breaks, the levee breaks, whatever. That song, Led Zeppelin. But I'm just gonna, I'm gonna, this is the last one. I'm gonna close out with this. How to go to 2. It should be on Second Ezra 15, but I'm not sure how that this name be tripping. Anyway, this is Second Ezra chapter 15 in the GNT. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai says, and of course the header says, the coming disasters. These are coming. These are end time prophecies, which are giving you warning about. It says, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai says, proclaim to my people the prophetic messages that I will give you, and then have them written down, because they are true and will be fulfilled. So these things are happening, are going to happen. They're currently happening. So do not be afraid of those who plot against you, or be disturbed by their unbelief. All believers will die because of their unbelief. The Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai says, I'm going to bring terrible disasters on the whole world, war and famine, death and destruction, because wickedness has spread everywhere and evil has reached its limit. So what you seeing, hey, this is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's judgment coming out on the earth, on the world, because their wickedness has overflown. It's time for judgment. So I'm going to jump down to, where is it? Verse 13, the farmers will mourn because their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms. So are not the farmers mourning? They're upset that the trade has gone to other places. Their crops are failing. They're not getting fertilizer. Without the fertilizer, hey, let me see here. Let's see. Why is fertilizer important for crops? It says fertilizer is essential for crop production because it replenishes vital nutrients. Why do they use this? Because the land won't yield itself. They don't give the land a Sabbath. They don't let the land rest, so they have to constantly push it out. They have to constantly wear out the land in order to produce stuff. They don't let the land rest at all. So it replenishes vital nutrients, primarily nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, removed from the soil during harvest, ensuring sustained soil fertility and high-yielding nutritious crops. It's not nutritious. It's better you do the way that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said to do it. Without fertilizer, crop crop yields could decline by up to 40%. It acts as plant food, supporting essential processes like photosynthesis, rapid growth, and improved resistance to stress. So basically, without it, the plants ain't gonna grow because they're not. um, where am I? So, Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 13 in the GNT, the farmers will mourn because their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms. The world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring their destruction is very near. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations. It's not World War III. Are we not at that? Is the Iran conflict, the Strait of Hormuz conflict, is this not going to heat up into more, to where more nations are going to join in, or neighboring countries are going to fight each other? So you see that all around the world with Thailand and Burma, Israel and every other country that's surrounding Israel. Even here, civil war. It says there will be great political turmoil. Is that not going on? With one group trying to overpower another and gain control. So they're gonna a sedition. They're gonna no longer they're not like this right now. I'm surprised that people aren't already, doing their thing right now, considering how this going. But hey, it's gotta heat up. It's gotta get further. It's gotta get worse. There will be great political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. There will no longer be free access to cities, 15-minute cities. Whether the infrastructure be cut off, destroyed, whatever, you're not going to be having free access to cities. You're going to need the MOTB, your papers, these flock cameras, all these things tracking you. You're not going to be able to go wherever you want to go. It's going to be lockdowns coming back. There will, because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. So also that it's going to be chaos. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. So like the famine in Samaria, they were selling. That was somewhat civil. They were still trying to buy things, a donkey's head, 80 pieces of silver, dove's dung, selling that, eating that. And then what else was going on? Cannibalism. Because they couldn't even afford that. They couldn't even get a donkey's head. So what do you think they're going to be doing? And it says they're driven by famine. Let's see that, driven by famine. Let me see what pops up with this. Driven by famine. Oops. So here, it even pulls up the verse I'm reading. So the phrase describes a period of extreme social collapse and chaos. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, the people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. Historical examples often mirror this. Great. That ain't really help. Oh wait, hold on. Modern humanitarian issues. In contemporary reports, driven by famine describes the causes and consequences of massive displacement, conflict, and climate. Modern famines in places like Sudan and Gaza and Haiti are primarily driven by war, political decisions, and climate shocks. Shoot, doesn't it sound like what I just read? Migration, extreme hunger is a major driver of migration, compelling people to leave their homes in search of aid. So guess what? You're going to be leaving your home in search of aid, but there ain't going to be no aid. So Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 19, GNT again, driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. So they're going to be raiding each other's houses. Not even trying to buy nothing. I'm just trying to eat. I'm trying to feed my family. But that's pretty much it. Just famine, destruction is coming, and it's you see it building up. You see these things building up in certain places, but this is coming to Babylon the Great. So Lord willing, this has been edifying. I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of your elect. Shalom.